All right, hello there. You got your host, the Sissy. Today is June 9th, 2021, 6/9/21. We'll start the video recording sound. And I'm in the game of Shapes.io. Maybe that's Shapes Input Output. I don't know. Seems like it could be a good name for that. And I'm going to go over. I'm basically going to make a video here about how do you use, if you're going to be more, I'm not much of an advanced user, but I did get to level 26 and got through it. I'm at 27 or 28 now. I don't know what it is, but, and then I come to find out that when you get to that level, the game is trying to get you to make a machine to make all the things it's asking for automatically. So you don't have to, you just put the input into it and it'll make it for you. And that can be quite involved. But what I'm going to get at is I'm not going to build it. That's just too much. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go over the basic concept of how it would work if you wanted to build it. And because once you understand what it needs to have happen, then you can put it together and make it work. But if you don't understand the electronic aspect and the mechanical part working together, it won't work for you. And it was a little confusing because I wasn't sure what some of the parts were in this game. But what I'm going to go over with first, and then I'll get to that, is the automatic color mixer that I made. I'll do this first and give you a quick demo in the game of, but you know what, first I want to just show you the hub. This is the main hub in the game, and I'm storing up a lot of stuff here. I'm at 26.4 million on these resources here. And I'm pretty high on the. I've had this game about a week. I'm guessing. Maybe. I've got pretty high on my stuff on the upgrades. I don't have a whole lot, way more to go. So everything's running pretty fast. The belts and distributors and tunnels is maxed out. I don't know why that just doesn't go blank, but it keeps up there. It keeps going. When you upgrade, you go from speed 10 to speed 10. Oh, that's a big waste. So anyway, let's go back to our automated color mixer. Now, I want to just show you this first before I get into the main part of the game, because I kind of like this, and it's kind of cool, and it's got some cool stuff to it. So this is a paint mixer. It takes your primary colors, red, green, and blue, and mixes them here in this machine. So we're going to go over a graphical here. We're going to see how it works. You'll notice this display is green because that's the last thing that was painted. Then we have this one, and this one. These displays. Now let's look at the electronics behind that. So we have a lot of filters and some signal generators and some stuff going on here and some wiring behind the scenes. I consider it to be underneath, but it's a different layer. So if I go over and I say, okay, so I put these buttons in, and these buttons are going to tell certain electronic devices to turn on and off and open things up, to let flow switches go so we can get our paint starts to work. So if I hit here, we're going to get white paint, as we see. There's our white paint. And if you watch these go up, they go into sequence. So as I stop it, this one will go out first, second, and third. This one shows the last color painted. Let's paint some blue. You'll notice these go blue, not all at the same time. Because it only registers blue while it's going past the reader, the belt reader. And then yellow. Look what happens when you get a little bit of both. You get some flickering. That's if you mix them together. If you get blue and yellow, it'll do it. The displays go a little flickery, so we'll turn them off. You know, these inputs over here, there's going to be 8 colors. There's 7 basic colors, although white's not really a color. We're going to have 8 possible shades, let's say. White and gray, or gray is no paint at all. And then you have these other colors here. Some people say turquoise, cyan, red, purple, green, yellow, blue, and white. And then gray is no color. So if I turn on the red, let's get some red paint through here. And they're just going into the trash can right now to show that there is a flow. Now let's go ahead and turn on the yellow briefly, then the green briefly, the purple briefly. Get some cool colors going here. And the cyan, and you can turn them all on if you want. You can really get some crazy stuff going on here. We're just mixing everything together now. So let's just turn these all off. Just so you know it works. So we're gonna watch all this paint finally get out of here. And we are hitting up just about 20 on the speed. Oh, let's get rid of our white and our red. Oh, our purple is still on. These here say what the color is if you push the button, and these other ones change to match the color when it's on. But of course, in the game for automatic stuff, these buttons would be replaced with a wire with a level 1 logic on it. So that's enough for that. Now I'm going to get to the test place. This is to understand to comprehend how you make a shape in this game. You know how they say when you assume something. Well, we all know that. You know what? You assume things all day. You assume when you're driving your car that when you hit the brakes, you assume you're going to stop. So I hate when someone says, well, you know what you get when you assume something. Well, you know what? You know where you can stick it. Because you assume the floor is not going to fall out in front of you when you're walking. You have to assume things all day. Assume just means how you think things are going to be. But anyway, I'm going to assume that the people watching this video are a little bit into the game, that they are getting to the point where they want to know how to use the virtual components, virtual stuff. How do those work, right? That's what this video is really about. And I want to include a person on YouTube, very cool person as far as the way he talks and the way he explains himself. He has a real well, what's the word I'm trying to use? Well organized method of talking to people. And he knows how to talk down to a layman's level to explain something. And he takes his time to explain something in a way that even a person that doesn't necessarily know electronics can comprehend it. But there was one topic that I asked him about, and he said he would get into it, and I'm sure he probably will, but I figured it out for myself. I basically asked him, and then I soon removed my question from his page, but because I kind of figured it out, but somehow he answered so fast. I asked, how do the virtual components work in making actual shapes? So I'm going to go over that. So that's what this is about. So thanks, Joe Mama, for your answer. And your level. Now, he actually made the big machine. I'm not going to make that because I'm just not going to make it, but I'm going, at least I don't think I will. But at this point, I'm just going to show the basic concept of how you really use virtual pieces in this game. So if we zoom in far enough here, I'm going to show you something here. What you have to do, before you go into anything, what you need to know is you need to have real parts waiting to be manipulated. So if you want to have a shape that you want to mess with, you've got to have it already made and ready to go, and a whole palette of them. You got to have lots of stuff made prior to using the virtual components. So if you want to make stars, and that's what you want to make, you got to have a star over here ready to go, and you have to have some type of device to chop it up so you can paint and manipulate the pieces with signals in order to make it work. So this is part of my explanation on how it works. I just figured it out because I just got the game a week ago and I didn't know I was going to come to this point, so I had to figure it out. And also on Joe Mama's part, Joe Mama 1973, thanks for all your videos. And I think the 1973, I'm just going to guess and say that's his birth year. And mine, if I had the same thing, it would be Sissy 1954, because I'm 67. Senior citizen here. I don't learn all that fast anymore like I did as I was a kid, so I have to take things a little slower. So anyway, around all of that, you have to have a whole bank of shapes over here to manipulate with the virtual components. The virtual components are not actual real devices. They are a electronic representation of them. And then when you make an electrical representation of them and orient them properly and send that signal over to the actual real parts, that's when you start putting pieces together. So I'm going to be controlling the actual pieces here that come out of this game. I'm going to disassemble it and reassemble it, whether it be painting it or changing its shape or doing whatever you want with it. But in this particular case, I'm at the baby level, baby steps, right? So I'm going to be manipulating two shapes. One is this shape here with the star kind of in this half circle stuff, and the other one is just going to be a regular circle. That's it. Because if you can do it on the lower scale, you can do it on the bigger scale. It's just going to take more work. But still, you have to comprehend what you want to do first before you can do it. So that's where I'm trying to come in with this video, because I had to figure it out myself. I did watch other videos and I could see a hint of what was going on, and I'm going, wait, how does this work? What is it? What is this? So let's get over there now. What they have in the game is they have the belt reader can do more than just tell you how fast a device is passing through here per second. The belt reader can also spit out data of what it sees. So it can also analyze also. Now in the game, you also have an analyzer, and you have, if you go to the electronics level, oops, that's not it. That's not the electronics level. Here's the electronics level, which is one step below, I think it's below, the real world up here. The electronics is going to say, hey, look, I want to get a graphical electronic signal representation of this device that I want to, and I want to take those and chop it up into pieces, and I want to have the top right quadrant, then the next one, then the next one, as it goes around clockwise, and I want to break those up into sections so I have 4 pieces. Now mind you, each piece can have multiple levels. We don't need to worry ourselves with that. It can get too complicated if you try to shove everything together all at once. So you work at one level only and no coloring. Don't color either. It makes things complicated. Just get the concept of how the virtual parts work. That's what we're going to do here. So what we want to do is we want to send a signal from here with the proper channel, or I should say part of a quadrant, to control the real ones in real life way over that way. So we need these cutters. They have these devices. They call them a virtual cutter. They have a virtual rotator, a stacker, and a painter. And then they have the unstacker. And then they have this thing called the shape analyzer. For what I'm doing here, I don't really even need to use it for this basic concept, but what it does is it analyzes the shape of the part you're trying to make. And in order to do that, now remember, we're only working with one layer here. If you want to look at another layer, you got to do this again and again and again 4 times. So we're only working with one layer. The same concept applies, but you're just going to have a lot of wires crisscrossing each other. But for this basic concept, we're going to keep it simple. So what we want to do is chop our piece up into 4 pieces that represent the 4 pieces of, in this case, we're doing circles. So if you look at what we got, the game works at the top right up here. We have a circle, which is the top right. So we've chopped that out. That's what we need. There it is. The second one down is here. Not the top right. Now we're at the bottom right. And we're getting these samples from over here. We take this signal that we have the first time, and it's splitting it up. But then you have to rotate the same thing 1 time clockwise. And now you're dealing with another part because it goes clockwise direction. So you rotate your part, then you analyze and chop and put out. Then you rotate it again, and you do it again, and you rotate it a last time, and you're finished with your 4 parts of that piece or that shape. So you see our last one is here, and it's the top left. This one would be the bottom left. This is the bottom right and the top right. So then I'm taking those. These aren't actual things. These are electrical, or I should say electronic or digital representations of the parts. Because it's not real, it's just a signal. We're going to send that signal to control real parts. So once we make these, like we do here, then we take our wires for each quadrant of that piece or that shape, and we send it along its way, and I've made it far away, and we send it to something that can use it. So over here, we have our ready-made, on the side, we should have a bunch of circles ready to go. And every shape that you need in the game has to be pre-made and ready. But I only made 2 shapes just for this video. I made this one and the circles. So you're going to have a shape for every shape possible already made up over here, all stacked up and nice and neat. And then you're going to be redoing what I've done many, many times over. So if we go up here, we're making circles. If we go to the electronic part, we're going to see our 4 wires coming up. So let's go to E, hit E on the keyboard to bring up our electronics. It's really not that difficult. We just are bringing them over. Now, if you hover your mouse over a wire, it shows you what it's doing. So I had to know to get this quad cutter ready to go. I knew I was going to do that. And it's chopping each piece up, doing its thing, and then it's just putting them back together again to make the circle again. But you could be rotating parts around differently depending on what you need and use it differently. But as you can see, they're matching the quadrants. It's telling this device, what this device does is it says, hey, if I don't get an input that I need, I'm not going to pass this part. If I get anything other than what I need. So I am sending in the proper orientated quadrant to tell this device to pass it. If I stop this and break the signal off, this piece here, which is this, which is a filter, will shut off. These filters are very useful. So now, I'm also sending the same exact signals to the one below it. So let's look at the wiring again. I am sending the same signal to this one as I am to this one. But this one can't use those signals because they don't match what it needs. This one needs a star shape, and the half round. The half round almost works, but because these aren't going to fly, nothing's going to fly. So if you look at where I'm doing with the wires, I'm crisscrossing them at this point. And I really don't need these two even to be here. Because there's nothing else going on here. So let me get rid of that and get rid of that. And then go back to the wires here. And just put a green and then switch to the blue wire and put that in. All right. Oh, I did it again here too. Just get rid of that and go with the blue wire. That made it more complicated than it needed to be. Okay. There's no sense making it worse than it is. So the same wires go to the same 4 things at the same time. But these guys just ignore it because they're not getting the signal that they need. So watch what happens now when I go back to my source. Okay, these are the sharp pointy guys, right? So what happens now if I go over to my source and I say, hey, I want you to make something different now, and all I'm going to change is this. I'm going to change it from circles to these guys. Let's update. We're going to do this one. So this would also be represented by the hub, which is over here. It has an output right over here. On this output of the hub, there's an output that represents this thing, that what I want to make. At that point, I would be analyzing this. So let's stick a wire on here. Let's go to the electronic level. Now you see there's your graphical representation, digital representation of this device. And this device is coming down on these wires, on this wire, and it's hitting a bunch of stuff. And at this point, this is where the decisions will be made of what to send, what to twist, what to bend, what to make to do what I'm doing at my stuff over here. So that signal would then be coming in right here to this thing. And then this machine would start making what that wants. But I don't have all the necessary stuff set up for that. So all I'm doing is this baby system to show how it works at the baby level, just to figure it out. Yes, does it work? Yes. So now let's go ahead and make another change and watch what happens over there. These pointy guys we're not doing anything over there. So let's change the input, which would be the same thing as changing the input from the hub to analyze it to make these shapes. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's see. All right, so now that's going in there instead. So now let's see what happens. Right? Oh, look. Now the bottom one is working because it's getting the signals it needs. See, we have the signal it needs. It matches it. So this electronic data is turning on this switch to allow this piece to pass. That's not needed. And if we go up and look, the circle is shut off. They're not doing anything anymore. So that's how it works. You know, you got to get it down to the smallest bit of information you could use to understand, and then you go from there. So if I started wanting to add more shapes over here, I could start getting more shapes that the game wants, like maybe some of these shapes here, and then I'll have to worry about coloring also. The easy thing about this, there's only two. This only has 2 layers. Of course, in the demo here, I'm only using 1 layer for simplicity. And I'm not painting anything. So now look, what do we got? We got those things coming in. Okay. So that's how it, well, at least that's the way I figured it out to work as. So this input would be the same one. If all I'm doing is switching an input and I'm getting different results, the machine seems to be working. So if you look above, this is passing and this reader is saying this device is there. So now watch when I do this. It says, hey, no to you anymore. Now you watch up above here. This guy is going to stop. After a little while, we're going to have both of them coming through here. Then it's going to stop. So there's both for a while. And then pretty soon, we won't have any more circles. This just represents what we're making now. And this would be the output that you would send to the hub once you go through the massive build of making the big machine that would do everything. Okay? So that's as far as I want to go today. So that's how the electronic virtual components mix in with the actual shapes. Because I was saying, I kept thinking the virtual machines can actually make a shape by itself. No, it doesn't. They can't. It's an electronic representation of a shape. And then that shape turns other devices on, which passes that shape through and then mixes them together properly to get what you need. Okay, but it's, of course, we know it is way more deep than that. But the basic concept is this, what we have here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and quit the video. Thanks again to Joe Mama 1973 for your quick feedback on that question, and I most likely will post this video on your page as a thank you to you for your reply, which was an extremely fast reply. Because after I figured out how to do this, I went and I removed the post, so I didn't want to bother you with answering something that I just figured out myself. But you replied so fast, I didn't have a chance to get back in and disable it. And it wasn't long. I mean, it was only a few minutes by the time I asked you, and you had already answered before I had a time to get back in and delete it. So I didn't want to bother you having to answer me with that question. So thanks again. All right. So I'll go ahead and close out the video and post this up on YouTube once I convert it. Later.